Okay, so today is Wednesday, July 23rd, and we got baby chicks today. Some of them are really cute and small. They're bantam chickens, and we haven't had any chicks this small before. It's always kind of a nice day to get these. It becomes more of a hassle and work as good time goes on. But the first day is a little bit like a Christmas morning effect when the baby chicks arrive. So I have some videos about it. Here they are. Okay, we got newborn chicks. A lot of them are smaller bantams, really cute ones. There's a really tiny one over there. We have 10 of them. There's supposed to be 11, I think. But they all made it here alive. My wife picked them up this morning. They're eating away, which is good news. And that's all. This little dude over here, they're eating and drinking, so they found their way. Now look at that little dude on the left, the yellow one. So they're really cute and tiny. These are the smallest ones I've ever seen. Like they're just maybe some of them are tiny, like those guys, so tiny. Anyways, Tulsi's into it. What do you think, Tulsi? You're into it, right, Tulsi? So, first day having the chicks, beautiful out here, probably close to the 90s. It was like first chance to eat grass here. The little one's really feisty. This one little one, she was the only one that sort of ran away. Or that little one there, maybe. What are these guys? Got their food and water here. Tulsi really wants to put them in her mouth. So that's what Tulsi likes to do. I'm going to put a little something up here for shade. I cut this hole in it so that they could go in and out of one of the coops, my last batch. And we were hoping to get a new one of these, and we got it, and it had a bottom, a black bottom, which is just really stupid because it would have these guys would have gotten so hot. So let me explain that. This thing's called the Peck and Play. They don't seem to make them anymore. There's some knockoffs still available. But when we had our last batch of chicks, which we only have 2 left from 9, 6 got eaten by predators, and then we had some rooster issues. But we have 2 hens left from that batch. I have some updates on those videos, which I'll share at some point. Like a bunch of updates of the whole thing with them. So when they were young, this thing was already getting holes in it. So I cut a hole in it so that we could put it next to our secondary chicken house. We have an old chicken house and a chicken run. And I connected the 2 things so they could go outside and eat some grass and get used to going in and out of the door. I was training them how to go in and out of the door so that when we took this Peck and Play away, we could let them out and they would go back in on their own, which proved to be fairly successful. But the idea was by the time we get the next chicks, we would have a new chicken house, Peck and Play, especially now when it's so hot out. And when my wife was ordering the chicks, it was one of those My Pet Chicken, whatever it was that she used to order. There's these various, brooding houses that ship chicks out to people and then to like Tractor Supply and stuff like that. And they had one for sale, and then when I opened it up, it had a bottom, which meant they couldn't learn to scratch and eat grass and do all the things. We were putting them outside so they can start learning to fend for themselves and find bugs and eat grass and do that other stuff. And it was just this little, it was smaller than it was like not even 2/3 of the size of the other one. And it had this bottom that was jet black and sort of like a leathery material, like some kind of, and it would just cook in the sun and they would basically be killed. It would be so hot in there. I mean, I wouldn't put them in there anyway because it makes no purpose. So we're going to return that thing. But I taped up this other one, and I have another one I ordered that was actually cheaper than the thing we got. So it's worked out. But it was just like I couldn't believe they'd be selling something so stupid because you're putting your chicks outside so they can learn to, scratch and scratch is how they get their food and things. And if you put a bottom in there, it's just stupid. Anyways. And they're out there with the grass and the water and all these things here. So that's pretty cool. Those are the cute ones. These are the smallest ones I've ever seen, I think. Because some of them are bantams, so they're not going to be big chickens. So we got 11 of them, and they actually 10. We ordered 11. Yeah. Guys, just gathered up the chicks. They're really cute, especially that one with the yellow and the brown with the stripes. They're all really just neat looking. Sure, I got them all. Tulsi's helping. Wants to put them in her mouth. Anyways, they're a little bit hot out here. They're staying mostly in the shade. So they need 90-degree weather the first couple of days. And they're still too hot for them. Bring them inside here. Look at those. Dulcie's looking for chicks. So it's the first day of the spiritual gathering, and I'm just in a really good condition. I'll talk about that. I'll make a separate video that'll be up on the Gratefullness meditation about that. But just wonderful day. Spent a lot of time outside working. I got the video that's up on the 24th up already. And I feel kind of detached and not really like disconnected from, I'm always detached from this stuff because, it's just like a joke and it means nothing and whatever. It means nothing to me. But there's this narrative. I was maybe eating and I turned on Fox News for a little bit and they were discussing this Obama thing like it's a real thing. So, and I started to chuckle. Like they had these pundits and they're talking about it and they brought up the issue. I couldn't watch it. Like I said, I was doing things outside. I was flipping through the channels, but just, it was wonderful because it's not a real thing. It's not going anywhere. It has 0 legs. And so the fake Christian Barbie truther came out and she's going to come out with Tulsi Gabbard. And she goes through 5 minutes and 32 seconds of just listing all their accomplishments, which is what they do all the time. And for the majority of Americans, they don't think these things are accomplishments. They might like some of the things, like for the right wing, the immigration stuff, they think they're being successful. For the left wing, they think it's like a horrific human rights abuse stuff. And, whatever that is. But the rest of the issues, people didn't care about before the election, probably don't even know that much about. And, when inflation kicks back in or when they start suffering, they're not going to give a shit about any of these things, right? And so then she, after 5 minutes of just bragging about everything that they're doing, she brings up the Obama thing, right?
This progress, all of these accomplishments have occurred in just 6 months. We are truly just getting started, and we look forward to working with all of you for the next 3.5 years. On another matter, over the past few days, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has unveiled shocking new evidence that former President Barack Obama and top aides in the Obama administration conspired to subvert President Trump's 2016 election victory and undermine the democratic will of the American people.
Okay, so just to understand this and how bad things have slid, they're announcing like this is like it's fact, right? Like, that this has been vetted by anybody else but Trump and his people. Not by Trump, because Trump barely, he can't stay conscious for anything of this detailed nature. But whatever they've got, whatever evidence they have, whatever they have on this whole thing, the American people don't give a shit. And even the Republicans. They don't even, Obama isn't their number one target, and he's, like the rage and the anger towards Obama. They dislike Michelle Obama more than they do Obama, and so it's not even like they're all, let's get Obama. And certainly Obama isn't on their radar like Epstein and Epstein Island and all that shit, right? And Obama was never a target of Epstein, so that's, maybe why Trump picked him, right? Like, he's the only one probably available that doesn't have some kind of ties to Epstein. Joe Biden's drooling on himself, so like he had to pick somebody. But she's announcing this like it's already, like you can't say these things. I mean, it's slander. You know, this is what you allegedly. You got to say allegedly, right? Like these things haven't gone through the court system, haven't gone through the legal system, and probably really won't. I mean, it's, you know, like it's so desperate on Trump's part, and it just, there's no energy in it, right? And so, but this she's saying these things, and it gets worse here.
While publicly pretending to engage in a peaceful transfer of power, in private, former President Obama went to great and nefarious lengths to try to sow discord among the public and sabotage his successor, President Trump. The new evidence released...
Yeah, that's called politics. Like, I mean, you shit me? Like, this is what, you know, I mean, look at what Trump did after the 2020 election. And they, you know, they say it's rigged or whatever, but Trump was fucking president for 4 years, and they still rigged it, and you did nothing about it. You let them rig it. You know, if for whatever way it was rigged, Trump getting worked on COVID and shutting down the economy and making it so that people had to do in mail-in ballots, that, if anything, rigged the election. If they rigged it, it was because of the mail-in ballots, and Trump walked right into that. That's his fucking fault, right? And he's saying that they did this in 2016, but he didn't investigate it. I mean, it's just silly, right? It's silly that he's bringing it up now. You know, like it's just so desperate.
By the Director of National Intelligence, who is here with me today, confirms that the Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump in an effort to try to delegitimize his victory before he even took the oath of office. The truth is that President Trump never had anything to do with Russia, and the Russia collusion hoax was a massive fraud perpetuated on the American people from the very beginning. And the worst part of this is Obama knew that truth, and so did all of the other corrupt officials involved in this scam, including former CIA Director John Brennan, former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former FBI Director James Comey, former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and many others. Director of National Intelligence Gabbard's report further confirms what we already knew. There was no collusion, no corruption, except on the part of Barack Obama and the weaponized intelligence agencies at the time. The Russia hoax was a blatant lie, all ginned up by Democrat political operatives that were signed off on by then President Obama and leaked to the news media.
See, like, they think this is on par with Epstein. The Epstein thing is so much worse and so much more interesting for people. You know, election fraud, like this kind of stuff goes back and forth. Them investigating to see if Russia had something to do with rigging the election was, you know, Hillary came up with the term fake news that Trump ended up using himself, and that became a whole thing. But, you know, this thing that she's saying, it makes it sound like they were trying to undermine the results of the election so Trump couldn't take office on behest of Hillary. And that wasn't the case. Whatever these little investigations were, whatever they were doing, you know, it might be scummy. It might be illegal. You know, they might find some little bits of stuff. But the stuff with Jeffrey Epstein, that involves intelligence communities in America and Israel's Mossad, and a guy who was made into a billionaire who was best friends with Donald Trump, and he had an island where he used to bring his, you know the fucking Epstein story, right? And he was killed, suicided. You know, his brother, I just covered that today in my last video. His brother said that he brought his own doctor in, and the doctor that was already doing the autopsy both agreed that this looked more like murder than suicide. You know, all whatever that is. So that story is just far more interesting. And you know, the people that voted for Trump, the Trumpers, were not electing Trump to go after Obama, right? They wanted the Epstein list. And Trump thinks that this conspiracy is on the same par as the Epstein conspiracy, and that people are going to get into it, and they're not. And Fox News was pathetically pushing this. it might only last a day or two. And then, more shit will come out, and more shit's already coming out about Epstein. It's so fucking silly, right? And she's so fucking silly.
To launch a years-long witch hunt against President Trump and his first administration. Allies of the president, including his own son, Donald Trump Jr., were disgustingly smeared as Russian assets, and some even had their lives destroyed because of this vicious lie. The president's first 2 years in
It's like a big lie.
office had this fake distraction hanging over it, and endless resources, time, and political capital were spent having to debunk these lies from the highest levels of our government. Now, nearly 10 years later, thanks to the declassification of documents by Director Gabbard, the truth has finally come to light. And
the truth, like she's saying, the truth. People want the truth about Epstein, and you're going to offer this shit, and this shit, is about Trump. This is 100% surrounding him being demonized. Then, the thing about Epstein is also about Trump. But, not in a good way, because Trump was his bestie and he partook of Jeffrey Epstein's, sins. And so, it's silly to think that you can distract people like this. The more you do shit like this, the more, fucking people get pissed at you, right? I'm sure they're talking about it. I know Candace Owens will be, and probably, Tucker Carlson. I mean, they're going to say, stop fucking, just release the Epstein Files already. You're going to do it anyway.
This truth vindicates President Trump, his family, and his many allies and associates who were smeared with defamatory lies.
Nobody's fucking wanting that. Nobody gives a shit about that. Only Trump, and he's releasing it. It's so silly.
President Trump was right from the beginning about all of this, and we are grateful that justice can be served. Now, we have even more damning evidence implicating those who tried to sabotage a duly elected president and did grave material harm to our republic. Thanks to additional important work done by CIA Director Ratcliffe, Committee Chairman Rick Crawford over the past few months, a newly declassified 2020 report prepared by the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, which DNI Director Gabbard has declassified, found that the intel community did not have any direct information that Russian President Vladimir Putin wanted to help elect President Trump in 2016. And in fact, Russia was actively preparing for a Hillary Clinton victory. But at the unusual direction of Barack Obama at the time, the intel community published implausible intelligence suggesting otherwise. Why? To sabotage the incoming president. This is truly one of the greatest political scandals in American history. And reporters at legacy outlets, some of which are sitting in this room today, like the New York Times and the Washington Post, were ridiculously awarded Pulitzer Prizes for their perpetuation of this hoax.
The hoax.
It's well past time for those awards to be stripped from the journalists who receive them. It is not journalism to propagate political disinformation in service of the Democrat Party and those in the intelligence community who hand over out of context and fake intelligence to push a false political narrative. I will now pass it over to the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to speak more about all of this. And
so here it says, did she say treason? White House addresses treason claims against former President Obama. Now, to use the word treason, which Trump did, I'm not sure she did here. I thought that she might have, but I didn't hear it. If I did, I'll go back and I'll do a search here in a second. But treason is punishable by death and almost impossible to prove. And this certainly would be called treason. And so, they're really fucking going in on this fucking thing. They're really going in when, the Epstein thing is just, it's how desperate you got to be to think this is going to work. And there's one more thing I want to show you later on in the press conference here. So there is a character in the Marvel universe in the Infinity Wars movies where Thanos, and I forget her name, don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know, has two daughters, and one of them he's just remade her into all these bionic, metal parts. And also the raccoon character, whatever his name is. I should know that one, but it doesn't matter. Is it Rocco? Again, don't tell me, don't care, don't need to know. But they've reconstructed these creatures, like in the Toy Story movie where that kid was taking all these different toy parts and sticking them together. And these Stepford Wives women he's got here. Tulsi Gabbard's weird, that weird streak of gray thing. Like a couple, they're three witches short of a. Well, my memory's just like totally gone. It's probably the meditation. Like I'm just like out of it. It's not a harem. I'll think of it later. But anyways,
also spoke to him about this morning, and he
coven. They're three witches short of a coven.
Wants to see all those who perpetuated this fraud against our country, who betrayed our country and the Constitution, to be thoroughly investigated and held accountable. And it's been 10 years of this, and I would just add, based on everything.
No one's been like, oh my God, I hope they get to the bottom of the fucking election bullshit. I mean, the only one who cares about this is Trump. Like Trump would say at his rallies, and people would maybe go there with him, but they don't give a shit about this. I mean, like all this, like Trumpers that just go with everything he says. But, Trumpers aren't all about his assassination. Like they care more about Epstein than his assassination, which is fake as fuck. And any of these other things. I mean, they want Epstein stuff. That's what they want. They want the fucking elite to go down. They want the fucking, the whole enchilada. And they ain't getting it, right? I told you, they're never going to get it. You're not fucking going to get close to it. There's never going to be nothing. Just like with everything else. Like Trump says he's going to release all these things. And, the things that he's released have been just nothing. They're nothing, right? They're the RFK stuff and the JFK stuff and the whatever that he's released have been disappointing. And some of these other things, the intelligence community doesn't divulge its secrets, nor does the government. And so, like this thing that's going to go nowhere in itself is not, it's not a substitute for Epstein.
The director has said and declassified, all of you in this room should go through it and take a look at this report and review the intelligence, because unfortunately that hasn't happened. And many of the people who perpetuated this hoax, Clapper, Andy McCabe, James Comey, and many others, have been hired by major networks in this room to go on television and continue to spew these lies, knowing that they are lies. And if you all recall, just flashback to 2016 and the years after, the entire Trump 1 presidency was embroiled in this scandal that was perpetuated by the Democrat Party. And you had major Democrat Party officials in this city, namely Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, who went on television and told the American people.
Nobody sitting there believes this. I mean, even the Fox News people. She's making this sound way worse than it actually was. Right? Like, there was definitely something there, but it isn't worse than the lies that Trump tells on a daily basis. Like Trump went out in a debate and said they're eating the dogs and cats, right? They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. And they knew that was a fucking bold-faced lie. And then, where's that now? Like, what's happened in Springfield, Ohio? Nothing, because that wasn't true. He says shit all the time, exaggerates things, brags about stuff, and just tells these, he throws around words like treason, like making this sound bigger than it actually is, and that this is something the American people want, and they don't. Doing the debt thing and Doge, and some of these things, sure, that's part of it, but there's nothing they wanted more than Epstein, right? This is like, when you were a kid and you asked for a toy, and your parents get you like a pair of socks, and you're like, they're trying to tell you they're the best pair of socks ever, right? And it's like, yeah, but they're still socks, right? I mean, unless they help you fly, unless they're got jet boots on them or something, they're just a pair of socks, right? And so this is what they're trying to substitute here.
Donald Trump is an asset of Russia. It was a lie. They always knew it. Hillary Clinton herself said that President Trump would be a puppet for Putin. Senator Tim Kaine at the time called President Trump Vladimir Putin's defense lawyer. Adam Schiff stated, and one of the worst things a lawmaker can do is to tell the American people, I know something you don't know, it's just classified and I can't tell you. And that's what he said. I can tell you that the case is more than that. I can't go into the particulars.
So YouTube just deleted 11,000 channels that are propaganda from Russia, China, and maybe some other countries. These propaganda channels. And there was censorship that happened because of this fake news bullshit narratives and things that went far beyond what they're talking about here. that affected so many of us. But Trump just cares about the things that bothered him. And he thinks American people and the Trumpers are they just think they agree with everything that Trump says. And they, in proportion to what he believes them to be. And when he said yesterday, don't think about this witch hunt, Jeffrey Epstein, let's think about this witch hunt about Barack Obama thing. Like, he meant it that they were going after him in a witch hunt. But now, like, he's going after him in a witch hunt. And he's using the government the same way. I mean, he's only doing this because he needs a distraction. This wouldn't be happening if the Epstein thing wasn't happening. Like, everybody fucking knows that. And Trump's using the Justice Department in a way that Biden and those guys did against him, that he whined about for 4 years. And, you can't do that because you've just cannibalized the Justice Department and turned it into another wing of the executive branch, which is already too powerful. Like, you're fucking the whole country over, and you're wrecking the bullshit democracy that doesn't work anyway. So, like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm just pretty much blissed out for the meditation thing. But, and I'm usually disconnected from this anyway. But, in terms of being a politician and saying America's great and trying to make it great again, you can't destroy the fabric of the government for whimsical, going after these people that aren't really even your enemies.
But there is more than circumstantial evidence now. And not enough people in this room, not enough journalists in this country pushed Adam Schiff to say, what are you talking about? What evidence do you have? Everybody just ran with the lies, and it led to impeachments. It led to the division of our country. Unfortunately, so many Americans, from listening to outlets in this room.
Okay, so the people that hated Trump during the Democrats hated Trump during the whole election. I mean, him and Hillary were the two most hated candidates ever to go against each other. The only thing that Trump had over Hillary is there's people that actually loved him or liked him. I don't say love is a strong word to use, but, love in the sense that superficial love that, his fans. Hillary didn't have a enthusiastic following. Bernie Sanders did, but he didn't have enough. But Hillary Clinton, was hated, and so was Trump. So don't make it like it's just a lie. You think there was the Russian hoax that made everybody hate Trump? Like, it's Trump just fucking opening his fucking mouth, right? He provokes people all the time. He's a fucking asshole, which I liked. I liked that he was provoking people. I liked that he provoked the left. But you're doing it fucking now, and you're provoking your own people by not delivering on the Epstein bullshit, right?
Room believed in these lies, and it's a complete scam, and it's a scandal, and the president wants to see accountability for that. Phil.
Thank you. Question for Director Gabbard. A spokesperson for former President Obama said in a statement earlier this week, quote, "Nothing in the documents issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes." How do you respond to critics like former President Obama and also others on the Hill who say that the administration is conflating apples and oranges here?
Okay, so let me just say something about this. So I read through this document. It's one of the few documents I read through. The NSA, the CIA, and the FBI put out a document saying that Russia tried to manipulate the election. And like Obama just said, that they weren't successful. And one of the things they did was use Russia Today, this YouTube channel called Russia Today. And I'm like, nobody watches that, even in the truth community. Like, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Like, fucking, it was an okay truther channel, Russia Today. I saw this thing on from North Korea on YouTube, and it got into U.S. conspiracy theories, or what truthers believed back in the day. It was like 2010, 11. And it just nailed America. Like, it was just, it was well done, right? Because America is so easy to, if you get rid of the hypnotism that the American public suffers, the right-left paradigm, other people can see right through it. And, their own countries are fucked. It's not like that means that their countries are good. But the document was about GRU, GRU, that's their, CIA, paying this hacker named Guccifer, and, the stuff to do with Julian Assange. to release these documents. And, you know, it was, I mean, the people that would find this information none of them were going to vote for Hillary anyway. And most of it was about Russia Today. I would say 2/3 of this 20-page document, you go find it. And so it was a nothing burger, right? And, you know, they put it out, like whatever it was, and nobody took it seriously. And Trump was already pissing people off, doing Trump-like shit. And so to make this thing into, you know, I mean, yeah, it was stupid what they did, and it was fucking lame. The Democrats and Obama, whatever, you know, they did. And, you know, they had their own bullshit things. They would not admit that nobody liked Hillary and that they robbed they went against the the democracy by robbing Bernie Sanders, rigging Obama left the party $12 million in debt. And so Debbie Wasserman Schultz was a nightmare, and somehow still is now. She's a House of Representatives person from Florida. Like, I don't even know how that's possible because she's fucking horrible. I mean, her husband must be rich or something, right? But she just ran the party into the ground. And Hillary came in and said, Hillary had a shit ton of money. And she had, her supporters, women, powerful women, Democrats that raised a lot of money for her. And nobody thought everyone thought Trump getting elected was a disaster. And she came in, Trump wasn't yet the nominee, but she came in during the primary and said, I'll pay off the debt, the $12 million debt, but this is my nomination. And so they rigged the debates, they rigged all these things in her favor. When Debbie Wasserman Schultz got fired, Donna Brazile came in and she looked at the paperwork and saw that Bernie Sanders had been completely wronged. They rigged it against Bernie Sanders with Biden again, right? Because they didn't want to run a socialist because he'd get killed in the general election. And so they never wanted to admit that all that shit happened and that Debbie Wasserman Schultz had, the Podesta who wrote a 20-page document for Obama on cybersecurity got hacked. He gave someone his fucking password and they exposed all that weird shit in his emails. And then the DNC got hacked as well, and that released a bunch of shit. And they try to blame that on Russia, but that's fucking like you run a fucking political party and you're getting hacked, and fucking that's on you, right? And so it's just they were a complete joke, the Democratic Party, and being a joke, none of these things had any teeth, and people hate Trump because he's Trump, and so this is just a total nothing burger on both sides, right? It's a silly little thing. And what's not silly is how much people want Jeffrey Epstein Files released.
Inflating allegations of actual hacking of voter machines and allegations of interference generally.
I think it's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing.
No, it's not. The American people don't give a shit about this. Don't try to speak for us.
The transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing.
No, it would be transparent if you released everything on Jeffrey Epstein and all the shit that involves Trump. That would be transparent, you lying fucking Babylonian. Oh!
Disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal and negative action towards the American people. And
again, no, it's not. It had nothing to do with the American fucking people. Right? You guys are all fucking, hurt the American people. You're all robbing the American people. You're all fucking doing the American people wrong.
Democratic Republic. The answer to that statement can very clearly be found throughout all of the documents that we have released. Again, showing that Russia has took action to try to sow discord in the election, but showed no preference for or against any singular candidate.
You've long been an opponent of weaponization in government. How do you respond to criticism that referring Obama administration officials and even potentially the former president is just more weaponization and this is a potential race to the bottom?
I think that's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the.
No, it's an attack on you. It's not a fucking American people. It's just bullshit. No one buys that shit. It's just fucking lies. This is about fucking Trump trying to distract. Which someone's going to ask that question here. That's what I'm.
Truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which
Yeah,
is
that's fucking ship has sailed, bitch. Right?
which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies and knowing that it would and could then be used for all of the actions that came after.
Carolyn, and I would just add, there needs to be accountability
Yes.
for that weaponization, Phil, that we've seen. And
There
no,
needs to be accountability. Remember when Trump just said, he doubled down on it, that he had Hillary dead to rights and chose to protect her. That's what the words he used. So, why not accountability for him not doing his job and fulfilling his promise of locking Hillary up? I mean, it would have been awesome if he locked Hillary up his first term, but he chose not to do that. He went out there and people were yelling, lock her up. And he said, yeah, no, that played well before the election. And so, he wasn't holding her accountable, but now he is, when he knows that he's going to get cooked by his dealings with Jeffrey Epstein, right?
one has been a victim of the weaponized government more than President Trump, not just because of this political scandal. You all recall his house was raided. So I think, it's very disingenuous for people to say, how dare they speak of former President Obama about this based on evidence and based on intelligence, when the former president of the United States, Donald Trump's home was raided, when he was forced to sit in a Manhattan courtroom and many other courtrooms across the country for crimes he never committed, when he was impeached and indicted, and the entire country witnessed that. That's the weaponization of justice. Now the president is back because the American people see the truth. Nearly 80 million Americans reelected him back to this office, and he believes that we need to have justice and accountability.
And 79 of them, top issue was Epstein's Files, right?
And I think the nearly 80 million Americans who reelected him agree with that. Caitlin.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions for Director Gabbard, just on this. Director Gabbard, you referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong?
Well, first, I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report.
Okay, so I thought that was about they only released this because of the fucking Epstein thing. I don't know if that got asked or not, but it is. Like, it just is. Like, everyone fucking knows it. Like, I mean, how can you not know that? Like, how can you not know that this is the timing of this thing, that Trump's peeny little pea brain, and fucking, he thought, hey, let's try to start another conspiracy that go after Obama, and maybe they'll stop talking about Epstein, and they're never going to fucking do that. So on this same day that they're going after Obama, here's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Forward on this non-binding resolution vote?
Because if he walks backwards, he may fall down. And
That would be terrible.
That would not be good. Are you going to sign on to this discharge petition, Thomas Massey's discharge petition?
Yes, I'm going to. Yes.
And why is that?
I believe in transparency, and I believe the American people. This is a serious issue. I can tell you, for the past, more than a week, the highest volume of calls into my office have been about Epstein. People want the information. They don't want things covered up, especially when it comes to...
So Johnson, and I showed this in my last video, he ended the session early one day so they wouldn't have to deal with Epstein and forcing Trump to release documents or pushing for that. And, Trump has now gone on record to say Barack Obama committed treason. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's, a biggest Trump fan there is broken with him over this thing. I don't think she's willing to say Trump is, culpable. But whatever she's willing to say, it isn't fucking about Obama. Like, this isn't what she's concerned about or what her people are concerned about. The people who are active in the Republican Party, Epstein's their number one issue. And Trump's connection to Epstein now becomes more and more obvious the more he fucking does shit like this, right? It's like somebody who's guilty that's doing everything in power to say, hey, look over there, right? Like everything in their power to fucking distract you from their guilt. Like the more he does this, the guiltier he looks. And the more information comes out about it, and the more the left gets emboldened to cover Epstein now, which is like, that's a fucking twist that nobody saw coming. Because they know that the more they cover it, the more Trump looks bad. And they're getting their base excited about Epstein now too. And so you have, they're giving, Trump is pushing more and more energy towards Epstein.
The most well-known convicted pedophile in modern day history. It's important to them, and they really want the information out.
The speaker says he's not going to have a vote before the August recess. What do you say to him?
He's also not having votes on a lot of appropriation bills that we need to pass before August recess. I think there's a problem there. Speaker Johnson also didn't allow us to make amendments on the Genius Act last week that had a backdoor for a central bank digital currency and did not protect people's chain of custody when it comes to stablecoin and crypto. So there's a lot of things.
Like she's actually smelling smarter than he's normal. But, the thing is, like, she's not talking about Trump's fucking obsession with Obama now. Wouldn't you think she would, like, be upset by that? Now, she would be. But Trump fucked her on Epstein and now these other things. And she realized, like, some of these these right-wing truther dope cubies. I mean, she's a former cubie, with QB, mentality. Still with QB mentality now. But they realize that the big beautiful bill is fucking, a nightmare, and it's not truther and not patriotic at all. And so that's what this has turned into. It's kind of hilarious. Nothing's going to come out of it. But I like when shit like this happens just because it's funny. So here it is here.
Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Justice Department officials told President Trump in May that his name was among many names mentioned in the Epstein Files. This is something the White House is now labeling as, quote, fake news, end quote.
So the Wall Street Journal, this fucking dude here, man. Like, what? What is going on? So this is the Wall Street Journal owned by Rupert Murdoch, who's, had a few times where he's kind of a little bit broken with Trump, but for the most part, he's been a staunch Trump supporter. He owns the New York Post and, and then Fox News. And so, Trump's suing the Wall Street Journal over that fucking picture. But if they're reporting this, which of course his names are in fucking there. His name's in there, and he knows it. Like, we all know it, and I think most of his supporters know it. Trump and Epstein were pals. Trump said he didn't like the guy, but he said that they were friends for 15 years in that comment. Like, you can't walk back the comment or the images or the videos or all the stories from people and all the things that people have seen. Like, him and Epstein were besties, and Trump went to do these things. I'm sure he went to Epstein Island, and he rode on the plane, and he hung out with Epstein, and he did things, and he knew about things. And he said that Jeffrey Epstein likes young women. And then he tried to distance himself from Epstein when Epstein was going down because Trump's a disloyal fuck. Him and Epstein were pedo buddies, and then he, saw that Epstein was getting fucked by was getting held accountable, and so he bailed on him. But they were criminals and scumbags together, and that's the story. You don't need anything else. We know it. Fucking, it's there. I mean, if any of this stuff is true, that's true. Like, if this thing is true, then that's true. Epstein and Trump were besties. Like, they hung out a lot together, and they were both depraved motherfuckers, right? And his name is on the list, and therefore, now when it comes out, if they release those files with his name on it, which they fucking can't, that's why they'll never come out, then, that's what's going to happen. Like, it's going to, now it's worse than ever because Trump has tried to hide the fact his name's on the thing. And he's bringing up this bullshit Obama thing, which everybody with half a brain knows is bullshit, right?
Our panel will be here to weigh in, but we do want to start with CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed. We also have our Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju on Capitol Hill. Paula, I want to go first to you, and especially this Wall Street Journal headline, which is that the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein Files, that he was told at this meeting the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past, some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the documents said that they contain hundreds of other names. We are in the course of...
No one's going to give a shit about those other names. They're going to give a shit about Trump. And do you think the lamestream media was going to let that go? Right? So, and now the Trumpers are like, fuck, he's covering up. And they would be like, oh, this is why. And Trump will try to say that means nothing. It's a hoax to go after me or whatever he'll say. But it's too late for that shit. So, we all know his name's on the fucking list. We all know he went to the island. We all know he's on the plane. We all know that he fucking pals around Jeffrey Epstein. We all know that some of this stuff about him is true, if not all of it. We all know he's a scumbag with weird sexual appetites. All those things are there. Trump is fucking guilty.
Of reporting this out, obviously. But what else do we know? And it also comes in the context of these court decisions today.
Let's start with the Wall Street Journal reporting. What we have not independently confirmed. We have received some statements from the Justice Department saying, quote, the DOJ and the FBI reviewed the Epstein files and reached the conclusion set out in the July 6th memo. Nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. We have filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay, so, we know what's up here. I try to look at this like a show. But in the show, Trump's guilty as fuck. And he's acting like a guilty fuck. And he knows he's guilty, and he's trying to do everything in his power because he knows that the people that care about him are going to be really hurt when they find out that he's Jeffrey Epstein's number one client. Like he knows that much, as fucking uncurious and stupid and oblivious as he is. He knows like he's fucked by this thing. He's acting like a guy who's completely fucked, and he can't find a way to unfuck himself because not releasing the files, he's fucked. And releasing the files, he's fucked even more. It's a wonderful kind of moment here. So I just want to add here, they're really selling this thing hard. So it's dinner time, cooking dinner, Wednesday, July 23rd. If something big happens that, isn't so big it should be covered on its own, I'll add it to the end of the video here. But I just want to say, when Tulsi Gabbard and particularly the fake Christian Barbie truther, we're up there trying to sell you on why this is so bad and why it's so important and why we need to do it. If you have to sell it to people, they ain't buying it, right? Like if you have to push it on people, something to do with election fraud and Obama trying to undermine Trump. If you have to sell that to Trumpers, and that's who they're talking to here, Trumpers. They're trying to get Trumpers involved. They know the Democrats aren't going to, CNN and the Democrats aren't going to buy into this bullshit, right? But they're trying to, this is, again, attacking his dopey base, right? His dumb fuck base who refuse to see Trump for who he is. He's lying to them all the time. Every time he lies, every time he does some fucking fake, it's like his fake assassination attempt or some bullshit like that, he's doing it to his dumb fuck followers. He's not doing it to everybody else, right? I mean, some people bought into that, other people, but he's perpetrating a fraud on you. He's scamming you. He's lying to you, right? And, he admitted at the beginning of this, where he's talking about treason, that he protected Hillary, and he's talked about that before, how he's protected Hillary. And so as a campaigner, he said he was going to lock Hillary up. So he sold a big bag of shit. He told the dumb fuck Trumpers what they wanted to hear, which was going to lock Hillary up. And as soon as the election was over, he said, no, that played well before the election. So he's doing the same kind of things to his people that he says Obama was doing to him and his people by perpetrating the Russia hoax or whatever it is. But the American people have accepted that these scumbags are lying all the time. It's just the dumb fuck Trumpers who have persuaded themselves, have lied to themselves and convinced themselves that Trump was somehow different. And now he's doing it to them again. But, this is the one thing he can't get them to let go of. It's the one thing they won't take a no on. And now that he knows that his name is on there and he's fucked himself, because if his name comes out now, he's fucked. If his name came out before, but he released the files and he said, hey, look, You know, I had a past association with Epstein. When I found out what kind of guy he was, I stopped hanging out with him. But, you know, we did spend some time together. And it was, you know, none of these shenanigans went on with me. He could have said that and released all this shit. And that would have been way better than fucking doing what he's doing now, acting like a guilty fuck, and then his name comes out. Which, of course, now they can't release it. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of a quandary. And Trump is spitting, and, you know, we'll see what happens. Anyways, that's it for today. I'll see if I add anything tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll just wrap this up tomorrow morning. Okay, so there's been a little bit more development here. Today's Thursday, July 24th. And I'm doing the Chargy birthday gathering. I'm going to do an audio about that in my next video, about similarities between Trumpers and people who, you know, did the spiritual practice and people's inability to, you know, see what's right in front of them. But I made this video yesterday, and hopefully I saved it, because I looked down. I don't think I did, and freaking I'll have to, I mean, it's just a little bit of editing, but I would have lost one little voice over it. I don't know if I can recreate it. We'll see, whatever it is. But I wasn't going to add anything to this video, you know, whatever you've seen before, but this all ties in. So this is the first piece.
This current president is the one who brought the case to the Supreme Court, and Chief Justice Roberts made clear in his opinion that a sitting president's responsibilities in office cannot lead to prosecution, immunity. So what is it the President Trump wants regarding President Obama, given that fact? And the special counsel at the time, Durham, when that Supreme Court matter was not in effect, could have charged anyone and did not. So on those 2 points, how do you respond?
Look, the president has made it clear that he wanted these documents to be declassified. He wanted the American people to see the truth, and now he wants those who perpetuated these lies and this scandal to be held accountable. As for what accountability looks like, as the director said, it's in the Department of Justice's hands, and we trust them to move this ball forward.
But you would agree
Stephanie.
President Obama cannot be charged based on that immunity?
Again, I'll leave that to the Department of Justice.
Okay, so this is what I said. You know, and I don't give a shit about any of this stuff. I just fucking don't. I have a good memory, but, you know, like, whatever. Like, I'm older, and, like, you know, so first thing I was like, well, Trump isn't going to give up his immunity deal. Trump would never give that up, right? In season 1 or 2, The Apprentice 2, I think it is, there's a guy who's everyone thought was going to win. He was just like, even before you know, these were not Celebrity Apprentice, but regular Apprentice. This guy, and Trump loved this guy. And the guy, his team lost a challenge. And Trump was going to, he gave him like the gift of not being able to be sent home. Right? Like somehow Trump did that. And there was some people that screwed up way worse than the guy. And the guy said, I don't care, I'll give that thing up and we'll just debate this here. Like he was trying to get cocky. And Trump said, I gave you a gift. And you didn't take it. That's so stupid. I can't get over it. He fired the guy. And they had to rewrite the whole show, like, to make it look like there was no reason for Trump to fire the guy. It was so totally arbitrary. And, you know, they were kind of telling Trump who to fire and what to do because he was not interested in, he didn't watch any of the challenges and he didn't know any of the people. He didn't give a shit about any of that stuff, right? Like, he's just, you know, he just doesn't care about, like, fucking, you know, any of these things. And he read these lines and, you know, sometimes he would arbitrarily, just in the boardroom, just decide to fire somebody that didn't need to be fired, just because of the goofy way that he was handling this thing, where you'd have people shout and yell at each other for, you know, made good TV, or at least, you know, what people think of good TV. But it wasn't like real business or anything, right? And so, like, that's how Trump is, right? And this, you know, and Trump isn't going to give up immunity. He's not going to give up the idea that he can't be prosecuted for any of the bullshit he's doing right now. And if he breaks that with Obama, then he has to give that up. So they're not going to do that, and they can't do that. The Supreme Court has said the president has immunity, which is a fucking bullshit thing. I mean, that's the ultimate in the Epstein stuff, right? Where a president can't be held accountable for his fucking crimes. Like, you can't, you know, it doesn't matter. Everyone needs to be held accountable. And so And she's not saying anything different here. The fake Christian Barbie truther, she's just going along with this because fucking everyone knows that this is a bullshit thing, right? It's a completely bullshit thing. Because not only, is it just nobody gives a shit about it and there's no energy in it, and it's already, whatever documents they have or don't have, it's not enough. And you can't prosecute Obama anyway. And so, like, it's just, it's just a stopgap as to like a temporary kind of thing he's doing. Like, it's not fucking working, right? So then this came in, this pie-faced lesbian.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Attorney General Pam Bondi privately told Donald Trump that he appeared in the Epstein Files multiple times. And she told him this before her Department of Justice declared the Jeffrey Epstein case essentially closed. Nothing to see here, and declined to release any more files to the public despite all kinds of...
Okay, so I covered this a little bit, but now the media was getting into it, right? And I didn't, YouTube's been recommending Candace Owens every day to me since I watched that first video. And I've looked at a little bit of her stuff. She's kind of annoying and her voice, I don't know, it's hard, she's a hard listen. But she starts off usually bashing Trump, which is, she's got 1 million followers. And she's being sued by the president of France for calling his wife a dude. So that's all fucking funny. But, everyone kind of knows this is true. And I'll explain why, because there's another report here in a second.
Promises to the contrary. Now, that's the top line of an incredible new piece of reporting from the Wall Street Journal today.
So they're saying he's saying it's a credible piece of journalism, which would mean that he, feels like it's legitimate. They're going to say they haven't independently fact-checked it. But
detailing that meeting back in May between Trump, his attorney general, and her deputy, former Trump defense lawyer Todd Blanche. We'll have more about him in a moment. According to senior administration officials, Bondi and Blanche told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was, listen to this, unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past. One official familiar with the documents...
That's them saying it in a way that Trump would be like, it's not... We're not saying that you did anything, but you were there.
Said they contained hundreds of other names. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and victims' personal information, the officials said. Now, I should be clear here, NBC News has not independently verified this reporting, which appeared just hours ago in the Wall Street Journal. And let's be clear, the mere presence of a person's name in these files is not an indication of wrongdoing by itself.
Okay, but it is at this point, right? It's one guy's dead and his handler pimp girlfriend is in prison. And a member of the royal family, brother to the king, the prince, a prince and brother to the king, paid a girl $12 million for he said, even though he said he did nothing wrong. And now she's dead of a suicide. She's been Epstein. And so this is grown by a lack of information. And the way the court of public opinion works, why the fuck are you hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? So everybody who's hung out with him, your name's fucking, it's just, you're not turning that thing around. Years ago when I was going through a divorce, the divorce process, and, just the way I look and the way that I come across and the kind of being an asshole and just all these things, I knew that, and my ex was, I've talked about her mental stuff and all of it, crazy, but was way more believable in terms of the way people would perceive me and the way they would perceive her. And she was much more of a networker and much more social. And I realized within my spiritual organization, it was silly for me to even try to, tell my side of the story, back then. Because, other to my kids or whatever else and people that knew me, it was like senseless, right? Because, it's just how people are going to view something. And there's, you'd have to have some perception of it. And if you hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, it'd be silly for you to even talk about it. Because there's no way, like, the more you talk about it, the more guilty you're going to look. And, maybe you're hanging out with him because he's a billionaire or whatever your reasoning is. But, these politicians and famous people, and someone now like Trump who's tried to bury the report and has always been like, let's not release it. I'm not inclined to do that. I don't want innocent people to get hurt, which means he's talking about himself, right? Like, Trump is clearly, he knew he was in the files. And, like I say, some of this stuff is just like, it's part of a show. But for whether you look at it as being part of a show or a real organic thing, Trump is in those fucking files, right? Let me show you this other clip here. Okay, so I did save the video, so I don't have to redo that edit, which is making me happy, and I didn't lose the voiceover, so this is the complete video that I started yesterday. And let me show you this, and then I want to complete my point that I was just saying about, Trump is in the files.
President Trump was told by the Attorney General that he is in the Jeffrey Epstein files. He was told he was in the files 2 months ago, and then last week said, no, he wasn't. He was. This was during a briefing on the findings of the Justice Department's review of the documents related to Epstein. That's according to sources familiar with the discussion. Those sources said the Justice Department's review found that the files appeared to include several unsubstantiated claims that they determined not to be credible, including those relating to Trump. But
of course, this is Trump's department saying, "Oh, Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein isn't credible." Like, it's.
He also raised in the meeting that several names of other high-profile figures were mentioned, the official said. And it's worth noting that being mentioned in the files does not in any way indicate wrongdoing. The Wall Street Journal, who first reported this story, said that AG Bondi, who was joined in the briefing by her deputy Todd Blanche, who previously served as President Trump's attorney in the criminal hush money trial. The briefing took place in May, weeks before the Justice Department released a memo on July 6th attempting to close the book on Jeffrey Epstein, which said, quote, no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That memo kicked up a furor in the president's supporters.
So this has been 15 days, right? And it's not going away. Now, I think everyone's going to hear about this that is concerned about Jeffrey Epstein, that Trump's, it's been confirmed that he's in the files. And so there's no walking that back, right? Like, Trump is, now the face of Jeffrey. He owns Jeffrey Epstein scandal. He owns it. He's the guy that's blocking you from hearing the truth about him being a part of it, right? Like, there's no other way to look at it. But here's the thing here. This is
among them that continues to this day. CNN reached out to the White House about the Journal report. Their response read in part, this is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats in the liberal media. That was their response. But we now know the president. Okay,
so this is why I wanted to wait till complete my point. Because, and I could read that whole statement, whatever it is. I don't know if I can find the whole thing, but okay, so this is the reaction. The fact is that President kicked him out of his club for being a creep. Again, like I've said, well, what did he do that was creepy? What was the exact thing that he did? Did he sexually assault a minor? Did he flirt with a minor? Because Trump already knew that he did that shit already. So the only really he called him a creep and kicked him out was because he was under indictment. He probably had a tough conversation with him, said, I don't want to get involved with this stuff. And he had been doing shit for Trump's club. And they said there's nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories connected by the Democrats and the liberal media. And so, and again, this guy wrote an email. I can't find the whole email. But it's clear what they're trying to say here is nothing. He's not denying that Trump is on the list. He's not denying that Pam Bondi told him. Trump isn't suing the Wall Street Journal for this. He's suing them for something else, right? But not for this. And so this means that it's true, right? And let me go back to this other thing here. So like I said, you can look at this as like you're watching a show or a movie. I talk about it as the show sometimes, right? And then the bigger show that this all third-dimensional reality is like a video game, a simulation, because our souls are something completely different. And we're in this illusionary world. That's, Maya, from the Sanskrit word Maya for, being an illusionary experience on planet Earth. And you can look at it like that, right? You can look at it in any possible way. But every way you look at it, Trump is guilty as fuck, right? Because none of this stuff matters, but, Trump has, if you look at all the evidence, Trump trying to dissuade people during the election and saying that the JFK files and other things were more pertinent than the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And then him coming out and saying, why are we still talking about Epstein? And he underestimated the passion from the people that voted for him for the Epstein files to be released. But everything he's done shows that he's in the fucking files. Like, that's the most logical, when you hear him talk, that he's covering up for other people and himself, and probably mostly himself, because that's who he cares about most. And that's the reason. And they hung out. They were friends for over 15 years in his fucking quote, which we'll take a look at maybe in a moment. But, the quote that he says he's a terrific guy. He's known him for 15 years. He was friends with them for 15 years. And now they're trying to say he kicked him out of the club in 2007 when Jeffrey Epstein was already under investigation, and that he recruited people at the club. Trump is in this fucking thing more than anybody else, right? And whether it's all like an illusion or it's some kind of scam they're running or they're just burning Trump, it all points to guilt. Like, every way you look at it, he's fucking guilty as fuck, right? And it doesn't matter, whether evidence is there. It's just the fact that the Trumpers never really were willing to accept that Trump was a bigger pal to Epstein than all the these motherfuckers, right? All these pieces of shit. And this is like that moment. There's a great moment when January 6th happened, and Trump just fucking bailed on all these people he brought up to the Capitol, and he sent them up to Capitol Hill, and, they got fucking baited into the whole thing. These disinformation agents and the fucking FBI assets that were all embedded in this fucking thing. And it went south on Trump. And Trump turned on him. And he disavowed all of them, all the Cubies and all these people. And then Trump actually lost the election. And these Cubies, these QAnon motherfuckers that everyone had such, difficulty dealing with, they were so fucking difficult and so annoying. And they were contaminating the truth community with their fucking stupidity and their dumb fuckery. And all these people, they just were silent, right? They, all these indictments and this idea that Trump was somehow going to change the world, was going to bury the deep state, and all these sealed indictments and all their bullshit stories and all their, Q was a governmental asset, was intelligence community asset, right? Q wasn't, maybe Mossad even, but whatever Q was, it wasn't a person that was telling the truth to their fucking dopey fucking people. Like, the fact that Q was saying, we need your help. We're embedded, we're high-level people with high-level government clearance, but we need the help of you dumb fucks. And so get your little Q fucking detector, your Q, what did I call that thing, that the prizes you'd get, like your junior spy detection kit, right? And so, they bought into that shit. And then when Trump went down, they were like, oh my God, this isn't true. And they were lost. But they came back as Trump ran again and whatever. But now here's this moment where they realize that they've been lying to themselves, because it's been obvious since the beginning that Trump and Epstein are besties, right? And that that Trump is the story. And so, and they're like fucking baffled by this because they deluded themselves. That's all that's gone on here. And, it's almost like they're fucking with these people. I mean, I don't even know what's going on in terms of the legitimacy of this story, but it definitely makes all the Trumpers look like fucking morons, right? It's the dumb fucks I've been calling them, because it was obvious Trump is a piece of shit, right? I mean, he wasn't ever hiding it. You just deluded yourself into believing he's something else.
The president was told he was in the files, which he was specifically asked about last week.
What did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No. She's given us just a very quick briefing.
So, no, like the way he even said that. Like he knows she's in the files. And so they can't release the files because if his supporters, especially now, because he just has made himself look guiltier or fucking guiltier. And so if he had released the files and said, hey, this is, I knew the guy for a while, but we weren't close. And, I didn't know he was up to these shenanigans. And once I found out, I kicked him out of the club. Like, that would have been so much better than what they've done here. She knows. Look, that fucking dope knows.
No, he says. We asked the Justice Department for reaction to the reporting. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche, the two officials in that Trump briefing, according to the Wall Street Journal, they released a statement. The DOJ and FBI reviewed the Epstein files and reached the conclusion set out in the July 6th memo. Nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution, and we filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings.
So they're not denying it, right? So they're not denying it. He's not suing the Wall Street Journal over this. And everything he's done looks like he's in the files. Whatever that means, he's in the fucking files. And he did shit, like with Epstein. He partook. He was, because he's a creep. Everything we know about Trump and his fucking creepiness and his weird shit he says about women and his fucking daughter and all that bullshit. He's a fucking creep. He has weird sexual stuff. Cheating on his wives, the porn star stuff, Stormy Daniels. He's a fucking degenerate. He's one of those degenerate motherfuckers, right? And so he is the story, right? Like they're fucking saying it right there. It's true. He's in the fucking files. Everybody fucking knows it, right? Everyone fucking knows it because he's acting like a guy who's in the files. He's a guy in charge of files that he's in, right? He's a guy who's in charge of releasing files that he's a part of.
This report comes as some Republicans on the Hill continue to push for more information. This afternoon, the House Oversight Committee officially subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell for a deposition. It's scheduled for August 11th at the Federal Correctional Institution in Tallahassee, where she's currently serving a 20-year sentence. And late tonight, a subcommittee went even further. They voted to subpoena the Justice Department for the Epstein files. This all happened despite Speaker Mike Johnson shutting down the House a day early to avoid floor votes on any Epstein-related matters. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who voted to subpoena the Justice Department, was asked about Speaker Johnson's move. Listen to this.
What do you think of the Speaker adjourning the House early to avoid this whole fight over Epstein?
This fight's coming no matter, this is here, and I've made it part of my life's mission to protect women and kids, and I think that I'm ready to take this vote. I think we should take this vote.
All right, so this is happening, right? And no matter what happens, there's no distance. Trump can no longer distance himself from Epstein, and whatever it is. And the Democrats now and other people are getting involved. This story is going to be hammered away because they know it's a fucking wink link. Trump's fucking panicked, and so then there's one more piece here. I want to wrap this one up, and there'll be more shit, tomorrow. It's like happening.
I chuckled a little bit, Scott, when you compared this to, you called it the Russia hoax. I'm actually going to play this from the date.
This is great. This guy who, Scott, everybody knows I'm Gay Jennings, who's supposed to be a right-wing Republican, and he's, always defending Trump. Like just in ways that he shouldn't, right? And so
Really shows Jordan Klepper, because I think, honestly, he comedically...
So Jordan Klepper sucks. He's just not funny. But he has something, that I and other people have said. Like he's, as a Daily Show guy ripping off, podcasters and comedians and, probably not me, but I also said this, right?
Laid this out pretty clearly why, I'm not sure why this argument works.
So let me get this straight. According to Trump, all the top Democrats got together and said, let's create some fake files that destroy Trump's political career. They don't ever use them. They let Trump get elected. Don't use them. Let Trump get elected again. Still don't use them. And then once he's the president, hope he releases the files without ever looking at them. Frankly.
This is the worst. This is the worst conspiracy I've ever heard in my life.
That's a great line. The worst conspiracy, because, this is what I said, and they had to do it before Trump was even elected, right? They had to be planning this, It was never a democratic thing. It was so fucking stupid. Like, this is all, I mean, I've covered this since the beginning. Like, before, there was a time where you go through these various things, and I worked, when you're a truther, you go through these various narratives. Now, I have a master's degree in counseling, and I worked at 2 treatment centers with sex offenders, little kids who had been sexually abused and then had acted out sexually, and then teenage sex offenders who had either a parole officer or a social worker or somebody, and they were, usually they had acted out in school. Some of them had criminal charges. And I work with the pathways. I know more about this than the average person. And my ex was sexually abused, according to her story, was sexually abused by her dad and physically and mentally abused by her mom. And I had to deal with that for fucking 18 years. And I just know a shit ton about this. I wrote a workbook about transforming abuse in like fucking, I don't know, 2003 or something. Like, it's just a whole... and it's like kind of worth saving, but I have to rewrite the whole thing, so it probably never happened. But I used to cover abuse and sexual abuse and all these things on a level where I had to work with it. Like, I was in the shit, right, in these treatment centers, and where these kids grew up in hell with these fucking creepy people in their life, and and then they acted out and all this stuff. It was just, it's a part of my life I'm glad is over. It's fucking gross. It's just... it's very prevalent in our society. Sexual abuse and like just all of it. And it comes in so many different forms. I mean, kids are getting sexualized and sexually abused by porn all the time. Young kids are watching porn. And that's, it's just, that shouldn't happen. Like, that's a form of sexual abuse. And so these kids are all growing up with, deviant sexual tendencies because they were warped by porn at a young age, right? So that's part of our society. And so, I know this thing as well as anybody, and I covered Epstein. So when you go through the truth community, there's these narratives. There's narratives about the UN. There's narratives about, the Federal Reserve, right? The economy. There's all these different things you have to learn, like these... the truth behind some of these institutions and all these things that you go through. Various wars, various, political things that happened, 9/11, Pizzagate, these various things. And I knew about Epstein a long time ago, like before it was even a thing, and I covered it. And I knew nothing was going to ever come of it, and I knew Trump was involved. And this was before Trump ran for president. And then when it came back up again, but nobody was paying attention to it. And then this woman from the Miami Herald wrote this piece about it, and it got everything going again. Of course, the internet took over with it, and then all that stuff. It was never a Democratic thing. Some Democrats were involved, but it was mostly right-wing people who were Pizzagate people, right? And Trump is unaware of that because he's not curious. He doesn't understand the truth community. He's not a real truther. And so he tried to spin this in a way that it couldn't be spun. Nobody anywhere thought this was a Democratic, conspiracy against him. And when he made it about himself, he then was admitting that his name was in the fucking files. When he said, this is just another one of these conspiracies to get me. It's like, no, because the Democrats could have done this. They never were about the Epstein Files until now. You've made them about the Epstein Files because you made it about yourself, you fucking moron, right? Like, I mean, if this is being scripted, then great job of writing and great job of acting, because like his buffoonery is legendary.
That is the most ignorant description I've ever heard.
But how on earth would Democrats have been trying to take down Trump with documents that they never used to take down Trump?
I'm sorry, they crippled almost his entire first term by convincing one half of the country that Russia stole the...
See, like, this guy's getting angry because he can't defend the Epstein thing because he knows it's not a fucking right. He's trying to make it about the Obama thing. Like, he's trying to change it right now, and it's not going to fucking work.
Okay, but on this...
And Democrats still have it at all.
Where is the Democrat conspiracy on this issue?
Thank you. So here's the deal. There's no conspiracy, and there's no story. Tonight, and I'll give you an example of why I believe that. Tonight, Fox News did a poll.
Speaking of accurate sources.
They're getting bitchy here.
Are you calling into question the Fox News polling? Because it's generally considered to be very good. So here's the deal. They have his job approval. He's a little underwater. Of all the people who said they approve or disapprove of Donald Trump, only 1% mentioned Epstein as the reason. And the whole 1% was either Democrats or independents. This fantasy that Republicans or MAGA...
Okay, so, the people that matter are not you. Like, the people that matter in this kind of thing are Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Joe Rogan and these other people. Those are the people that get the views. I mean, between them, they're getting, more views than all mainstream media combined on a daily basis, right? Like, it's just... And they're getting the views of the people that are going to be, that would be Trump supporters, people who are fringe people. These were people who carried the water for Trump and tried to get him elected. And they're talking about this thing. And the people who are in these chat rooms and these groups of people, and the Marjorie Taylor Greens and these other people, she's turned on him. And so everyone knows he's on the fucking list now. He's guilty as fuck. And they're changing their opinion of him, and they're like, whatever it is, he's fucked by this thing. To whatever extent. Like, I don't know how it'll play out. But him, swaggering around, like, this thing's just going to hang around him like a fucking... Like, he just got skunked by Epstein, right? He got Epstein. Like, the stench of Epstein is going to be all over him. Like, he is Epstein Island, right? There's no way to reverse it because, anything now that comes out is going to just cement this idea that him and Epstein are fucking perv buddies, right? They're Perv Bros. It's the Perv Bros.
Nobody in the Republican Party is worried about this, and most of America is not worried about it.
CNN's polling shows that he's 37 points underwater on the Epstein issue. But the large...
Okay, so, I don't even know why you guys are taking polls. Like, the people who are out there that are important, this isn't about polling. Like, polling doesn't fucking, it's a dead thing, right? I mean, it's not about quoting polls. The story won't fucking die. Like, I kind of wanted it to die. I wanted to move on. But now I'm glad it didn't because it just keeps on fucking, Trump's a piece of shit and he's fucking being exposed. The truth is coming out. There's no way to stop it. And it's not about the Epstein Files because you already know fucking Trump's a scumbag. I mean, Trump has said he's a scumbag. The evidence is overwhelming. He's done all kinds of bad things. You already know that Trump is best with Jeffrey Epstein. You already know all this shit, right? It's just there for everyone to see. It's just, it's, it's what it is. It's just what is, right? Here it is, right? Here's the quote that, I lost it. Here it is. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy, Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. So first of all, he knew him for 15 fucking years. He knew him for 15 fucking years, right? And they hung out. They're besties. Called him a terrific guy, right? Terrific guy. So, they hung out. There's all this evidence, all these people, all this stuff corroborating things. Trump and Epstein were perv buddies. Trump has these weird sexual proclivities, which that's outside of Jeffrey Epstein. And he's a lot of fun to be with. What does that mean, right? That means he spends time with them. He parties with them. It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. How young, right? And so this is 2002. So he had been friends with him since, what's that? 2002, since 1990, is it 7? Something like that. 1997. And so 1987. So 1987. And a lot of this stuff is happening in the 90s. And then 5 years after he said this, he kicks Jeffrey Epstein out of his club. A club that the biggest victim, the biggest named victim, Rachel Giuffre, who's now been suicided in Epstein and, had the thing with Prince Andrew, was recruited at Trump's club, right? The guy's all fucking over this thing. You don't need the Epstein Files. You don't need any of it. Like, Trump is fucking Jeffrey Epstein's buddy, and now he's done everything in his power to cover that up. It's just fucking there, right? It's just there for everyone to fucking see. They're perv buddies, and, everybody knows it. Like, on some level, we've always known it. I've always known it, consciously. And unconsciously, a lot of these dopey Republicans have known it. They rearranged reality to make this about Bill Clinton because they wanted to believe in Donald Trump. And now they're struggling with some existential crisis because Donald Trump is much more implicated than Bill Clinton or anybody else. You know, Jeffrey Epstein had a painting of Bill Clinton in a dress in his home, but he was best buddies with Trump, and he knew him longer and more intimately than, you know, they lived together. They were New York buddies and they were West Palm Beach buddies, and so they were all over this thing together. They were Mar-a-Lago buddies. Jeffrey Epstein's thing with wherever he was there in West Palm Beach, whatever the name of his fucking place was, where most of this shit happened. Quick fucking flight over on the Lolita Express to the island. So whatever the story is, whatever real it is, whatever it's being done, whatever is part of a scripted thing, whatever it is, Trump is guilty of every single version of this. There's no version of this where Trump isn't on that list. There's no reality where Trump isn't on that list. And so you don't need any of the information. This is about Trump because Trump is a piece of shit. And, you know, anything that you believed about him, about being a savior or any of these things is fucking ridiculous because he was an Epstein fucking crony. You know, an Epstein, you know, he was a different version of Jeffrey Epstein, maybe even a worse version. And he's that guy, right? And so I don't know what this is going to end up doing. They're taking him down or not. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, you never get the truth. Like I said, they can't tell you the truth, but that's the truth. Like, you know it. Everyone knows it. Like, everyone fucking knows it. Trump and Epstein were best buds, and they did fucking creepy shit together. Okay, so I originally ended the video there, and that's a great way to end it, but I just want to add this because it's important. He was friends with Epstein for 20 years, right? So from 1987 to 2007. And these weren't Jeffrey Epstein's younger years where he was just trying to make it. This was Jeffrey Epstein as a billionaire pedophile, and Jeffrey Epstein had one passion. I mean, he had passion maybe for money and power and things or whatever, but it was for young girls. Like, that's the story. Like, that's what he was into, and Trump and him shared this passion. It's clear from everything that Trump says and everything that we know about Trump, and we know about the two of them, that they shared this passion. So they were perv buddies for 20 years, right? I mean, during the heat of Jeffrey Epstein, when he was, this was when he was in the middle of that, you know, when he was at its peak, right? And all the way up to when Jeffrey Epstein got busted, and then Trump disavows him. You know, in a way where it's very vague that he did something creepy at Mar-a-Lago, but was it a crime? Did you report that to the police? Did you protect the girl? Like, so what, you know, let's hear that. Like, just don't say it was because he was creepy. Say, you know, what exactly happened. What exactly happened was he got busted, and Trump was worried he was going to be dragged into it. And Trump pushed this away for so many years, knowing about it, and probably shitting bricks about it, right? Because, you know, he knew he was implicated, the number one guy, and now, you know, it's coming around, right? It's just, and Trump can't avoid it, you know, in the way that, I mean, he's not going to jail, and he's not going to get impeached. But, you know, he is getting trumped, like he is getting Epstein in whatever way that means. And he's going to lose, you know, credibility. I mean, that's basically what this is about. You know, whatever, like, swag he's had, it's gone. Like, he has really, like, limited support now from a small section of people. Everyone else knows he's implicated in the Epstein thing. Like, it's just they know. And there's nothing he could do about that. There's no way to reverse it. There's no way to change the narrative. It's just there. And this thing's going to go on for as long as it's going to go on. It may keep on resurfacing. The Democrats know it's a weapon that they can use, so, you know, the media, and we'll see how it plays out. But, you know, Trump's a piece of shit, and he always has been, and it's just that there was a small group of people that were convinced he wasn't, that he was their savior, and he's not, and then now this has all happened. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse, and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day, and be grateful.